Take 1,242. Yes, I am admitting it. I did not produce this speech in one sitting. All right. I utilized the virtual aspect and I did a few takes and a few cuts. And I just want to be completely open and honest with you because a lot of times that is what causes an insecurity. An insecurity may be considered imposter syndrome. And that is what we're going to talk about today, imposter syndrome. But before we get into that, let's address the fact that we're virtual and the fact that not a lot of us love that this is virtual because we absolutely love the event and the connections and getting dressed up and being around the energy and experiencing the women around us, right? There's something so empowering by speaking to somebody and learning about their history and their growth and their success that really helps to create a fire within us. And so I completely get that this is not for everybody, but I'm going to go ahead and embrace it and say I'm down with virtual. And here's why, because I am in a safe space. And when I'm in a safe space, I feel a lot more confident and I feel a lot more comfortable. And not to mention that, yeah, it's sophisticated at the top, but we got comfy at the bottom. All right. Don't play. I know some of you guys are dressed the same way. You got your comfy sweatpants on and you got your nice top going on. That's the virtual life, which it's not for everybody, but it is where we are today. And so I'm embracing it and I hope you are too. And I ask that you interact with me as much as possible because I thrive on interaction. I thrive on comments and I thrive on, really seeing people. So the fact that I don't get to see you and to kind of pull the energy from the room is kind of a downer, but I'm going to pull the energy from the comments. So make sure that if you find or see anything that resonates with you in this speech, comment. All right. I want to hear from you. Now, before we get started, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to put out your right hand, put out your left hand, take the right hand and put it on your left shoulder. Take your left hand and put it on your right shoulder and then squeeze really, 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 really tight. And that is my virtual hug to you. I am a hugger. And had this been in person, I would have hugged everybody pre COVID to create a connection, to create an energy flow that allows you to feel more comfortable being in the room and around me and to take on the energy that I have here, right? Sometimes we go into things and our energy is a little low and we're just like, okay, I'm going to sit here. Well, wake it up because we're about to talk about some real things that can shift our entire world. And when I say shift, I mean to help us stop hiding in false truths. And I absolutely love this because I am somebody who was a victim of this. And I say victim because I allowed myself to continue the behaviors that created my life that I didn't want. Right. So I was 200 pounds overweight at one time and I was depressed and unhappy. And I was just going with the flow of things and I was just living the life that I was living. Right. And I was taking on all the characteristics and the roles that went with this life, even though I knew deep down inside that wasn't me. That's not who I was made to be. That's not that's not why I was brought here. But yeah, I was living in the cycle of it. And I was continuing the story. And I was continuing to make that my truth, even though inside I was dying. And then I started to realize that I had a lot to work on. And I wasn't mad about it, right? A lot of times we feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do to actually get to where I want to be. and it's going to take forever to actually get to the success that I want. And yeah, you could look at it that way, or you can look at it as if you're going to grow and expand and start to write the story and the truth that you want to live by, right? So I identified within myself imposter syndrome throughout this process. And what is imposter syndrome? Well, imposter syndrome is defined as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is derived or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills, right? And a lot of time we say like I'm a fraud. That's kind of the go-to term when we hear imposter syndrome. Oh, you feel like a fraud, right? And yeah, that's kind of the case, like a fraud. However, it's the inability to see that the work that you've been doing is factual, but yet you have this false truth within you. And I started to really dive into the behaviors and thought processes of like, why do I feel this way? And what is really fraud? Like, why am I feeling like a fraud in certain aspects of my career? And where does it really stem from? Right? Because we can say fraud, but it's so vague. And I started to really dive into behaviors and thought processes. And I discovered 6 archetypes of imposter syndrome. So, yes, they are fraud based, but they dive deeper. They dive deeper into the false truths that are creating our reality today. And not to say that it's your reality today as all these will be, but some of them may be narrating your behaviors, your actions, your decisions, and it's really just this that is holding you back from that next level of success or that next level of leadership or that promotion that you really want. When you identify everything inward and you actually start to transform what's actually creating the current narrative of your life, then you can actually start to redirect the narrative to where you want it to go instead of living in a cycle. All right. So let's talk about the 6 archetypes. Now, if you resonate with any of these, comment. I want to hear about it. You can say, yes, that's me, or yes, I've been there, or you can say perfectionist. You can say soloist. These are all the archetypes that are within here. There's an expert, there's a natural genius, there's a superhero, and there's a transformer. I have been through every single one of these archetypes at some point in my life, and sometimes they kind of folded over each other, and I experienced multiple of them at the same time. And I really love the fact that when I identified these, I was able to really go back and identify where they stem from, right? Because it's one thing to stay again surface level and understanding like, oh, this is who I am, this is how I am, right? But it's really not. We weren't born with the thoughts of not being good enough, or not having enough knowledge, or being that person that's naturally good at things. We weren't born with these thought processes. They were created within us over time through childhood experiences, through childhood interactions. And so each of these have a cause that created that imposter syndrome archetype. And there's also a solution, right? Because with every cause, there's a solution. It's just identifying it. But before you can identify the solution, you have to identify what's happening within you. So let's go into the archetypes. Perfectionist. A lot of people can resonate with perfectionist. I mean, we hear it, right? Perfectionist paralysis, like it has to be great. Some people that can resonate with being a perfectionist, maybe you've heard, that you are a control freak. Maybe you've heard that you overanalyze things. Maybe you feel like you compare yourself a lot, right? And maybe you start a lot of projects, but you don't actually finish them. And you're like, why do I do this to myself? Well, here's the thing. Perfectionist paralysis is so real. And when I was getting into my fitness career back in 2011, 2012, I had started online and I thought to myself, oh, this is so great. All the stuff online was happening, Facebook was happening, and ebooks were starting to become a big thing. And I caught wind of ebooks and I wanted to be part of it. So I went and I put my head down and I wrote not one, not two, but 3 ebooks on health and nutrition. And I was so proud of myself. I thought these are so great, right? I'm going to put them on Facebook or on the internet and I'm going to sell them for $10. It's going to be amazing. And I got online the day that I wanted to post them, and I noticed that somebody that I admired had started selling ebooks too. And hers were $10. And I thought, oh my gosh, mine aren't that great. Let me go back and work some things around and like fix them. And then I ended up starting a whole new project, and I never ended up putting out those ebooks. They went back into my hard drive and they sat there. I was in perfectionist paralysis. I felt like I wasn't good enough, quote unquote, fraud, to put these books out, that it actually created me to not make any money from it because I didn't execute. I didn't go through, I didn't even see if they would succeed, right? I just automatically created a false truth within myself saying that there's no way that my books would sell because hers are selling. I went into comparison mode, right? So that's where the perfectionist archetype comes in, is really, 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 creating stories based off of comparison and not facts, and not going all the way to the finish line with a project. And it could again be, let me cross this T, let me go back and check the spelling. Even with nowadays, it could be creating content or creating your empire that you want to create, because it's like, let me make sure that everything looks beautiful before we actually roll anything out. When in reality, roll it out and kind of fix it as you go. So if you are feeling like you're in perfectionist paralysis or in the perfectionist imposter syndrome, then I encourage you to take a step today and put something out that you normally would have double, triple checked, right? Or maybe go on a last minute trip where you don't plan anything, because a lot of perfectionists like to be prepared. They like everything to be to a T, right? So, in order to change any of these, you have to change the behavior coordinated with it. And so, again, if you find yourself in this category right now, do something. It could be taking a photo of, you without makeup. It could be, like I said, planning a last minute trip. It could be just doing something that you feel that hesitation, like, oh, it's not done. Put it out anyways. All right. Or it could be like, oh, I need somebody to check my grammar. And, before I post this on social media, post it anyways, right? Let the grammar police come by and say their 2 cents, and allow yourself to take it in and embrace, the effects of the behavior, and to see that it's not as bad as the story you were telling yourself. So then let's move into the soloist, number 2 on the 6 imposter syndrome archetypes. The soloist is someone who likes to work alone. Okay. Someone who feels like they can do the work just so much better, and they would rather do the work than to take time to teach somebody to do the work, because it's just going to take so much time from them to actually teach somebody to do the work. And so they micromanage, and they sometimes even have, trust issues. Like, are they going to, live up to the expectation of doing the work. Soloists, especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? As an entrepreneur, we strive to be CEOs of our empires, right? Chief executive officers. But sometimes when we have that soloist archetype, we're actually COE, Chief Operating Executives. So, what's the difference? Well, a CEO delegates tasks, a COE is somebody who takes on tasks and does them. And sometimes that's actually limiting you from moving forward because the old saying goes, if you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And we're limiting ourselves from being able to go far because we're trying to take everything on our own and build this entire empire off of one set of shoulders. And this goes for management too and leadership. A lot of times it's, if you have a soloist archetype, it can seem very, very difficult to resonate with people and to have patience to teach them. And so a lot of times a soloist can, be an only child. It could be somebody who's just very, very independent. So I encourage you, if you are a soloist or have that type of archetype within you, right now, delegate something. Take something off of your plate. Find somebody to help you with one aspect. And it could be very, very small. It could be even something at home where, you as the mom tend to do everything, right? Laundry, dishes, dishwasher, like let me do, all the things. Delegate laundry. Delegate, I cook, but you put the dishes away, right? Little things like that, where you start to slowly remove things off of your shoulders and give them to others. And when you start to actually shift that behavior to seeing that, oh, other people can actually do the task, and sometimes even better than I can, it creates a ripple of excitement. And it creates that ripple of confidence in allowing others to help you succeed and grow and move forward so much faster and so much farther than you would have on your own. All right. And not to mention, it helps alleviate a lot of stress and anxiety because let's be real, when you're trying to do it all, oh my gosh, it is like a panic attack sometimes. It's like, and do I have this? And do I have that? And do I have this? And that's that? And they're like, do you want me to help? I'm like, no. And in reality, the answer should be yes, right? They can go grab some water bottles. They can take the papers and organize them from A through Z on my desk. I don't need to be the one in charge of that. So start to pay attention to the little things that have become so natural to you that you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. And when you start to become aware of how these imposter syndrome archetypes start to show up, you can start to catch them. And when you can catch them, when you can become aware of when they're happening, that's really when you can start to shift the behavior and change the story. And really start to release that fraud mentality of like, who am I to even be here, right? Because with the soloist too, a soloist won't even move forward in hiring people to scale their business, which then limits the income in which they're making, right? And it's like, oh, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, which is fine. Yes, I don't disagree that you can't do it all. But the question is not if you can do it all. The question is, should you do it all? Okay. Going on to number three. Number three is natural genius. Yes, in high school, we know them. They are the people that are so good at everything that they don't even have to try. These are the students that didn't even study for the test and still got A's. These are the sports athletes that did not show up to practice yet ended up scoring goals and baskets throughout high school, right? These are the natural, just gifted, quote unquote, individuals that can show up and just handle it. But here's the thing, a lot of times when we have a natural genius, imposter syndrome, it gets very difficult to actually do things that we're not good at. We start to question ourselves if we should be doing it. Am I even good enough? Maybe, you know what? I'm not good enough, right? Because it didn't happen fast enough for you. And so instead of pushing through, instead of learning the process, instead of growing through the process and accepting that it's okay to not be good at everything, and to be open to learning new things, the mind goes right away to like, oh no, I'm not good at this. I'm going to quit. That's it. And it's like, but you didn't even give it a chance to actually see if you could be good at it. Right. And so it gets to a point where they're asking themselves, um, if I don't excel fast enough, if it's too hard, then I quit, right? Um, and so the natural genius is somebody who, again, analyzes and compares and gets really, really, really into that second guessing mentality of if they should even be in this career, even though deep down inside they know that they love what they do. But instead of pursuing what they love to do, because it doesn't come so easy to them, they take a step back and they don't pursue it. If you feel called to do something, if you feel called to apply for a manager position, but are unsure if you should be applying, apply. If you feel called to start a business, but you're like, I don't even know how to start, like, I wouldn't even be good at this, but I really, really love to do this, then do it. All right. There's something beautiful about growth and learning and being in a room with people and individuals who are better than you at certain things. It's very, very one humbling, but also two very, very impactful in the fact that you now have expanded your growth, expanded your knowledge, expanded your relationships, right? A natural genius can also get very, very caught up in that soloist mentality where it's like they're so good, it's very difficult to ask for help. And sometimes the only thing that needs to move the needle forward is to ask for help. So, if at any point this natural genius is resonating with you, I encourage you to ask for help with something that seems difficult for you, and ask as many questions that you need to ask. And yes, sometimes a natural genius will feel like, quote unquote, stupid. It's like, oh, that's a stupid question. I shouldn't ask that. But I truly believe that there are no stupid questions. There's just questions that you don't understand yet. And keep asking questions until you fully understand. Because if you do not fully understand, then you're not going to execute at the level that you could be executing as you do with that natural genius ability with other things. All right. So step out of that comfort zone and ask questions, as many as you need to. And yeah, sometimes people get irritated, but I would rather irritate somebody to answer my questions so that I have all the answers I need to execute at the level that I myself hold myself to and that they are expecting from me as well. All right. So moving on to expert. Number 4, expert. Oh my gosh, I resonate with this one so much. Expert. How many of you guys have books galore? Like, comment, tell me. Like, you're like, as soon as somebody makes a book recommendation, you are on Amazon, like ordering that book because you want to learn that specific, new task or new tactic or new strategy, whatever it is, right? So much so that sometimes we have, instead of self help, we have shelf help where they sit on our shelves because we have so many books ahead of that one that we still need to read to actually catch us up on the knowledge that we ourselves feel we need to actually step into being that expert or that coach or that manager that we want to be, right? So the expert is somebody that is constantly learning, so much so that they're not even stepping into executing what they're learning, right? So let's say you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to, start a store, and then you start to learn about operation systems and marketing and branding, and so much so that you forgot to start the store. Or if you're working in an industry for a corporation, it's like, okay, I really want this X position, and I know X position understands, let's just say marketing, right? So you're on marketing, having all the marketing books and learning. But hey, you forgot to apply for the position. You forgot to let people know that this is what you do or this is what you want to do. You got so caught up in learning that you never actually applied any of the knowledge that you were learning. And so much so, there's like a fear that you're a fraud because you don't know enough, right? So if you're in a room with peers and you are asked a question and you don't know the answer, you get very insecure. Even though you studied all about this, you don't know the answer, you feel like a fraud. It's okay to not have all the answers, though. That's the beauty of, life and those that we surround ourselves with. We're not all supposed to have the answers all the time. And it is okay to continuously learn. I am a big advocate for, learning on a regular basis. Again, expert is something that I am currently trying to shift my behavior and shift the story that I'm telling myself, in the fact that, hey, you are still capable of coaching people, even though you don't have a PhD or doctor in front of your name. And sometimes that's how we feel. Sometimes we feel as an expert, we have to have certifications, and we have to have, and granted, if your company, requires those, then yeah, you're going to have to go for those. But a lot of times in like entrepreneurship and things like that, we won't show up to be that expert in that field or in that industry because we don't have that certificate. But yet we have all the knowledge, if not more than the one that we would have had we gone for the certificate, right? And so show up with the knowledge that you have today in the field that you want to be in. So I challenge you, if you are on expert archetype, then today go out and say, I do this, and tell the world what you do. If you are looking for more sales, go out and say, I am looking for more people to do X, Y, and Z, and to coach them personally. If you are in a corporation, then go out and let your manager know, hey, I have this skill as well as what I'm currently doing. And I noticed that this position over here also requires that skill. And is there something that I need to do to get to that position? Right? People don't know what you know until you tell them. And an expert, one of the behaviors is not telling people, is not expressing the knowledge that they have. So go out and share your knowledge, showcase it, be proud of it. And it could be as simple as, knowing something about the moon. I don't know, whatever you study. But the thing is, with the expert, they also get to a point where they feel like everything they know is common sense. So it's like, oh, but people already know that. But I'm here to tell you that your common sense is not my common sense. And the way that you perceive things is not the way that I perceive things. And by you showing up and sharing your knowledge, it's going to help myself and others to see things in different ways, and or to see you as the expert that you want to be. And that's why you've been studying this for so long. All right. So show up and share what you have learned and what you want to say. Number 5 is superhero. Oh, the superhero. We all know them, right? A lot of times parents, we show up as superheroes. We take on all these roles, right? Think of a superhero. dressed, in his suit or in her dress, during the day. And then something happens and they rip off their clothes and they have their cape and their costume. And that's really how superhero archetype shows up, is they try to balance all these roles, right? So you're balancing motherhood, being a chef, being an entrepreneur, being a manager at a corporation, you're a wife, you're a friend, you're a daughter, you're a son, right? You have all of these roles that you're playing on a regular basis, to a point so that if one of those roles you don't show up as best or as high performing as you can, and the level that you provide that role drops, you feel like a fraud. Who am I to have all these roles? Who am I? Right? A lot of times the superhero can be, considered a workaholic. They can feel very, very inadequate when something in their life falters on their scale. So, to a superhero, all aspects of their roles in their life have to be at 1,000%. If you're not at 1,000% as a mom, as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as a daughter, as a father, as a son, you feel inadequate. You feel not worthy. You feel shame. You feel shame that you fell short in that role. And you start to measure your competency based off of how many roles you can juggle. But the thing is, we're not meant to juggle everything, right? And every role should have a specific level in which you are giving to it, because in reality, there's only 100% to give. And if we're actually going to dive deeper into this, according to the Navy SEALs, 100% is actually 60% effort. You see, the Navy SEALs truly believe that 60% is the max effort that anybody should provide to anything, because you need to leave 40% room for flux, for anything that could and will happen, right? Sickness, tiredness, fatigue, self-care. You have to leave room for things to happen, for possibilities to open up. And so often we are running ourselves as superheroes down to the ground, and we're exhausted. We start to feel sick. We start to feel very, very fatigued. Our eating changes. Everything starts to really go out of balance when we're not at 1,000%. So, with the superhero, I encourage you, ask yourself, you know, which role do you need to be giving just 60% at, right? Because let me put it this way, 60% in the educational system is still passing. You can still get your diploma with 60%. Now, does the diploma say 60%? C's, D's? No, it says, congratulations. You are a whatever, whatever, and here's your diploma, right? It's not about the number in which you gave your effort. It's about the effort that was given. And so if you give the effort at which the level you can give to that specific role in your life, it will start to alleviate the stresses and the anxieties that create that fraud mentality of, I'm not good enough. Oh my gosh, like, this is just so hard. You start to seek external validation and saying like, no, 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 you're a great mother. You don't need people to say you're a great mother. You are a great mother, a great father, a great employee. But because we are not operating on 1,000% level every day, every time, in every role, we start to second guess ourselves, our abilities, and we look for external validation to help kind of fill our cup back up so that we can continue operating at that level. So I encourage you, if you find yourself as a superhero, where is it that you find yourself, you know, really feeling overwhelmed by all the roles? Like, write all your roles down. What roles do you play in life? And then give each of those a percentage, right? And how much percent do you want to give to each role? And it's going to be so eye opening to see like how much you do every day at such a high level that, yeah, how could you have, any energy for yourself if you haven't even put yourself in to your percentage rates, right? So super eye opening when you write down all the roles that you have and then the percentage that goes to each of those roles. And if you find like, wow, like I can't continue to be the chef of my family, then that's a conversation that you need to have with your spouse or, your partner, and let them know, hey, if we want to have a better connection and relationship, then this needs to come off my plate because it's taking a percentage of the roles that I play in life, right? And have that open, honest communication. And with yourself first, open, honest communication, right? A lot of times, the reason pieces of our lives start to feel chaotic and overwhelming is because there's nothing left to give those pieces because our 100% has already been given away. All right. So take an honest evaluation of where you're putting your effort in every single role that you have in your life. And I mean, if you are cleaning your house, you are a housekeeper. If you are making all your food, you are a chef. If you are homeschooling your kids or, have to do homework, you are a teacher. So claim that role and how much effort is being put into that. Okay. And then the last one is transformer. I love this one because I lived this one for so long. You see, when I was younger, I went through a very, very, very difficult time in my age where I was bullied for years, for lots and lots of years. So much to the point where I had no friends. I ate lunch in the bathroom. I, didn't want to get to school until the bell rang because I didn't want to have to like just linger awkwardly. Um, it was a very difficult time for me. And it all stemmed from one situation where I had a core group of friends and I thought we were so tight knit that I walked up to campus one day and all they said to me, and all they've ever said to me since then, was, you know what you said, you can't hang out with us anymore. And I thought to myself, wait, what did I say? Yesterday we were fine and today we're not fine. I had no idea what had happened. And that was the starting point of where I became an introvert, and I started to really question myself on who I was and how I spoke and what I said. And that woman, she started as a little girl but became a woman, lived that way for so many years, not knowing who she was and so scared of who she was that instead of owning her truth, she would transform and take on other people's beliefs and other people's actions and how they reacted. And she would literally transform to the environment in which she was in just so she could fit in. She did not want to rock the boat. She was, a hermit. But when she did go out, it was very much just kind of, yes, yeah, I totally agree with that, right? Kind of thing. It was never disagreeing, even though deep down she wanted to disagree, like, no, I don't believe that. But it was just like, yeah, yep. Said very, very little, as few of words as possible. Sometimes she wouldn't even say anything. She would just sit there for fear of saying the wrong thing. So um, it was very, very difficult for her to actually be her. So she became an introvert and a transformer and adapted to the environment and the situation and the behaviors of those around her. And it was very, very, very hard. And I think that's what really led to the point in my life where, yeah, I was 200 pounds, but I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I really believed. I, attempted a few things and I went this way and that way. And I never spoke up. If anybody asked me to do something, the answer was always yes, for fear of making people, not like me or have some kind of judgment or criticism against me. Anytime that I would be asked a question, I would be taken back and I would sit and like think like, are you sure you want me to answer? And it was just really, really difficult time to where even at the point when I got married, my husband spoke for me. I didn't speak for me. So this woman that you see here today speaking to you, so what you may see as confidently didn't just happen. She identified the behaviors that created her shift. And when you can start to identify the behaviors, the thought processes, the words that you're speaking to yourself and to others, and you become awakened to the reaction that is happening based off of these behaviors, these thoughts, and these words. And if you are not happy with the outcome that is happening in your life right now, you are in full control and you have full ability to shift, to stop hiding in these false truths that have been narrating your life and your success. You can step into whatever you want to be, no matter how old you are, no matter how long you've been in an industry, right? And sometimes it's hard, it's very defeating when we come into certain situations because subconsciously what happens is it reactivates that little girl in which the first incident that created these imposter syndromes happened, and it triggers us to react, to say, wait, hold up, don't say nothing, don't do anything, because I know the outcome that will happen if you do, and the outcome being the same outcome that happened. So if we take the incident of when I was younger with being bullied, if I were to say something that goes against what everybody in this room is saying, my subconscious little girl says, they will not like you and they will not let you sit with them. And so I stay quiet and I catch myself staying quiet and I feel this internal burn and I have to fight that feeling, those thoughts, and speak up. And when I started to speak up for myself, my entire life started to change. Opportunities started to come my way. I started to really live in fulfillment and not just be. I started to really feel aligned with my calling. And I am a big advocate for growth, right? For constant transformation. As much as you identify these and as much as you start to hear and kind of understand that child side, that inner child that you have speaking to you, that are creating these moments and these thoughts of fraud, you can go back and restructure those thoughts with a simple meditation, because our brain does not know the difference between a dream and reality, right? Have you ever had a dream where you're falling and you kind of like shake? Yeah, it's because our brain doesn't know the difference. So what we have to do is restructure the story to have the outcome that we want. So that subconscious little girl that tries to come up and keep us safe, because that is what's happening when we react with these imposter syndromes. It's a safety mechanism so that we don't end up with the same feelings and emotions that we did the last time. But when we can restructure those thought processes, it'll actually allow us to start to show up differently and to react differently and to have a different outcome, which means you have broken the cycle and you have truly shifted. So I'm so excited to have provided you with this information. Please let me know what resonated with you the most. If you identify with any of these imposter syndromes, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I look forward to connecting with you.